I still remember the first time I saw Blade Runner. My father put the VHS cassette into the cassette recorder and sat me down to watch it, and I had no idea what was going on. 30 years later, I've still got no idea what's going on, but I'm really blessed and excited that we get to spend a little bit of time talking about what has become my favorite movie franchise with the author of the role playing game that's coming out for that, which is currently funding on Kickstarter. It's an exciting time. If you are excited, then please hit the like below, please subscribe and join in for our future content. Of course, that author is also the CEO of my favorite role-playing publisher of all time. So I'm really, really excited to introduce and welcome to the Dark Orb, Mr. Tomas Härenstam.
Hello,
Good to see
hi.
you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's so good to see you. Of course, we've got UK Games Expo coming up. I just want to throw that in there. So I
Sure.
believe you guys are coming to that, which is going to be really exciting here in the
Absolutely.
UK.
Yeah, we'll be there in force this year.
I'm really, really looking forward to that. Lots of realies today. Um, Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Wow, what an incredible license. I remember when the Alien RPG was announced, and I'm sure in some of the live streams I probably typed how much I'd love to see Blade Runner coming to Free Ligan as well. What does that whole IP, the intellectual property, mean to you, Tomas?
Well, it's been a long, it has a long history with me. I think it's not dissimilar to what you described for yourself. I first saw it, a couple of years after it came out. I got a VHS copy from my uncle. I had a fairly young uncle. He had been to the UK, to London, and I think it was taped off of, British television. And he brought back that and a couple of other films. There was nothing on TV or anywhere near it in Sweden in the 80s. So that was like, a gold mine to get these VHS tapes from the UK. That was just, magic. And one of them
Yeah.
was Blade Runner. And I was maybe 12 or 13
Yeah,
at the time.
probably about the same age as me. I think you're a couple of
I
years
kind
older
of
than me, but not
missed,
much.
I didn't get much of it, but I was fascinated.
Yeah.
And that fascination just never went away.
Yeah, it has
Yeah.
become for me one of a few. It's like a short list of films that I will
Yeah.
always put on. If, for example, I'm sick, it's like a
Yeah.
comfort movie for me. I know it's not a
Yeah.
particularly comforting
Hmm.
film, but
But still,
it's a
somehow.
faithful movie that it's just um, stream of consciousness kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been developing the game? That come
Well,
before or after Alien, for example?
right. The idea started around the same time. Alien is also a favorite franchise, and
Yeah.
for many of us at Free League. So both of those projects on the idea stage started out at around the same time. But for a myriad of reasons, we ended up doing Alien first, and we were lucky, blessed, enough to get the chance to do that, to pitch it,
Yeah.
and to do it, and then Blade Runner. So, and I guess active development for Blade Runner started. Well, it's about a year and a half ago, maybe something
Mm-hmm.
like that. So it's been we've been working at it for quite some time, behind the scenes, and we're still working at it. We're in a place now where we're almost done. It feels like, but there's definitely stuff still to do, and it's before it's all said and done. But yeah, we're seeing at least some what we feel is the end, or being done with the game.
Yeah, and certainly I recall seeing on the Kickstarter that people who back the game during the Kickstarter will get access to I guess, the early-ish version of the PDF. You're, as you said, pretty
Yeah.
much done, but there'll be revisions, I guess, before it goes to print. Um,
Yeah.
But we'll find out. I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned that there's a few of you working on it. Can we give a shout out to the team that's working with you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I have the role pretty much as I did for Alien, as a rules designer and a general project manager, and just keeping everything together and making sure things get done. The other main writer is Joe Lefavi, who does the setting writing. So he's if that's possible, an even bigger Blade Runner fan than me, or fanatic maybe. So he does the setting work, and we cooperated on the scenario stuff and all of that. But then, of course, there are other contributors. Mainly, I think, there's a bunch of them, but I think we really should mention Martin Greep and his artwork, which I think are fantastic and really set the tone perfectly. I think his style just was like made for Blade Runner. So that's great. And then Christian Granat, who does the graphic design, I think he totally nailed it on this one as well. So I guess that is the core team. But then there's many others who have been doing great work also beyond the four of us. But I guess that's where that's pretty much us.
It's really nice to see what you guys have done with it. Actually, I'm going to show a couple of images from the book, so we can get an idea of. You mentioned Christian and Martin both in terms of layout and the artwork, and I just think this is really beautiful. I mean, parts of it remind me of the layout, obviously, for things like Coriolis and also Alien, but it does still feel very different. And I love that you're keeping that kind of common design language as well, because it works very well and it sets 3 League apart. This image, of course, very evocative of Deckard in the original movie, and the spinner, of course, which is that iconic vehicle, the flying police car. Would you mind if we have a look at the trailer as well? I think it's probably worth seeing some of that artwork because it's just stunning. Done a great job with capturing that feel of Vangelis and the movies. Well, first of all, how does it feel knowing that what you're writing with Joe is effectively becoming more Blade Runner lore? I mean, this is kind of an interesting place to be in.
It's
actually have
a big deal. It's a big responsibility and something, it's fantastically, fun, but also a bit, it's a serious matter. So we're taking it very seriously. And but of course we are doing it together with Alcon Entertainment, who is the license holder. So I mean, everything we do is thoroughly checked by them. So we do it, and they have their feedback and ideas, and we work together with them to make sure it's a coherent whole universe, so that we won't run off and do something completely off the mark. But so far it's been great, and I think it's this. I mean, of course, thinking Blade Runner, you think about the 2 films primarily, but there's also more going on. There are comics, there is the anime recently came out, and more things that we have also kind of mined for ideas and content, and of course also added some additional things of our own to it. So
great. So you're taking all of that into the context of the game, which I know is set kind of in between the movies, isn't it? And after some of those animated things have taken place. Will there be any of the characters from any of those media that you know of that you can share existing in the game?
There are a few characters. I don't want to spoil, because most of the characters are in the scenario, the case file called Electric Dreams. So I'd rather not, so we weave in a few characters that you might recognize. I think one, so there is an opportunity to visit Taffy Lewis and the Snake Pit, for example. That's a bit of a, so that's kind of fun. It's also meaningful to go there because there are things to do there, but it's also a bit of, it's kind of nice to revisit locations that you might recognize like that, and a few others that I won't reveal just yet.
Now, is Electric Dream the scenario that's in the starter set, or the kind of mini campaign for
that's
that?
Right. So, so it's a fully fledged. That's you have the graphic there. So basically the starter set has a brief rules, a condensed rule book, but also it has this full case file scenario with lots of handouts. I think it's, with all the stretch goals unlocked, I think we're up to, I don't know, 26 or something. It's a lot of handouts, and it's a fully fleshed out case file that will kind of set the tone and start you off on playing this game.
Now, are the handouts? Okay, so this kind of draws onto one of many questions that our patrons from Patreon have asked for me to bring forward to you. There has been some talk about the inspirations of, like, the Sherlock Holmes games, for example,
Right.
in
Yes.
the fleshing out and the structure of a case, for example, within the Blade Runner RPG.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and about the intended mechanics, how the game's going to feel? One question that was asked is, if the starter set is reliant on handouts, for example, how easy would it be to homebrew content? Or is this more designed, I mean, not that you would exclude homebrew content, but is this more designed with the idea of pre-published content being really the gold standard there?
Yeah, I totally understand the question, and it's something we've been discussing quite a bit, because compared to maybe some of our other games, which are more of a sandbox format that you can kind of run with, Blade Runner will depend more on pre-prepared case files. There is typically there will be a case to investigate and locations to visit, so you kind of have to have that type of thing prepared. But we definitely, we will want and encourage game runners to write their own stuff, and that's actually something we're working on right now. We're preparing lots of assets and templates and things so you can use, and there is a case file generator that was unlocked as a stretch goal that you can basically roll up a case file with a number of random tables, and there will be locations, NPCs, and things that you can kind of use in your own homebrew case files. So that's something we're actively looking at, how we can, encourage in the best way possible, because I think it's there's so much creativity out there in role playing, and I think writing, constructing your own case files is going to be part of the fun of this game, and just offering a few tools and assets to help you do that is something that we really want to do.
And this is primarily then an investigative game, so we're seeing more, almost like, I kind of hesitate to say this, but like the Call of Cthulhu style. Primarily, you're an investigator, but other things can and will happen, rather than being maybe maybe a more of an alien action game where you might do a little bit of investigating.
Yeah, there is the way it's constructed is, I mean, the casework is basically depends on the Blade Runners. You can be more than one. You can, but usually if there is you'll be a small team, but there will be apart from just going to locations, looking for clues, talking to NPCs, finding, getting these handouts and trying to puzzle the whole thing together. That's like the casework that proceeds. And but beyond that, there's also a layer of something we call countdown events. So that means things will happen in the world no matter where you go and what you do, and you kind of have to progress the case quickly enough to kind of avoid or at least see these events coming. So there's always going to be like a pressure of a timer that keeps the action going and keeps the game from, just bogging down in minutia of this investigation. So there's always going to be that kind of time pressure, and that's also
with
pressure
to challenge.
Exactly, that can be the challenge in investigative style games, that can kind of bog down, because either you don't find the clue and you go nowhere, or you just get stuck on investigating something that's actually not that important anyway. So we kind of have this framework with the countdown events to push the action forward and also make things kind of happen no matter what you do and where you go. So that's kind of the balance of the game, and it also pressures the teams, if you're more than one player, to actually split up and cover more ground in a shorter period of time, because that's something we tried a lot in playtesting and works quite well in this game. So we actually encourage splitting the party, at least for brief periods of time, so that it works well in this kind of investigative game. And also for the Blade Runners, I mean, this noir feel that it feels better when you're just maybe one or two Blade Runners walking around in more than like a team. So that splitting the party really works in this game.
That's really interesting because, of course, part of the feel of Blade Runner is that solitude. And
Yeah,
if you've got a team of 4 or 5 Blade Runners, all going on a jolly party together to
yeah, it
investigate something,
doesn't
it kind of breaks the
exactly.
setting a little.
So that's why we also recommend the game. It's actually, I think, written as a game runner plus 1 to 4 players. We would not
Okay.
recommend more than 4. In playtesting, we were usually game runner plus 3 players, and that worked quite
Mhm.
well. And that's also how we kind of also being 2 or 3. It's also quite common. We found that you will want to split the party to cover more ground, and that
Interesting.
kind of works as long as you keep cutting back and forth
Yeah.
fairly often, so you don't keep the player waiting for too long. Then that kind of style of play works well, and it feels right for Blade Runner, and it feels right for this kind of noir style that we're going for.
Mm. And of course, in today's world where everyone's doing online play, personally, I
Yeah.
know I found that small groups of no more than 3 players kind
Yes.
of helps everyone to share the spotlight. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned that the kind of the system encourages play for kind of smaller groups. How else have the mechanics changed from Year Zero engine? We did have one kind of concern that this is feeling less like what maybe old school Free League fans would class as Year Zero, which is having 900 d6s and throwing them at a dice tray and seeing what wins.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
it's
maybe more towards
true.
some other systems, but yeah,
Right.
I'm really interested to find out
Yeah.
how the new system works.
It's something we tinker with quite a bit, and it has to do with kind of game feel and table space and mind space. Is that this game
Yeah.
is so focused on the investigations and the casework and all of the handouts that will kind of fill your table, and just there's also a big element of character development on a personal level. There's an element, we call it downtime, that every once in a while you'll need kind of to go home and rest, or go out and do something that is not the investigation. And those scenes, we call them downtime scenes or downtime events, they will kind of develop your character on a personal level. So there's so
Hmm.
much stuff going on that is, we felt that the rules system needs to be solid, and it needs to be there and promote the play style, but it shouldn't take over. We don't want, and then that we felt that throwing like 10 12 dice on the table, it kind of takes precedent. It kind of dominates the table in a sense. And we felt for this game, that's not really the feeling we wanted. So we
Hmm.
tried out the system that uses 2 dice instead. So it's a lot less, it occupies less space both on the table and in the minds of players, while still doing its job, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and mathematically, I mean, speaking like probabilities, chances of success, the way you push rolls, the effects of pushing, and all of that, that's not that different. It kind of works in the same way. So it's basically just the way you roll dice that is a difference.
Yeah.
But we wanted to try this out. When going into playtesting this, it was more like an open question: will this work well, or should we just go back to a D6 based system? But we felt during playtesting that we liked it. We felt it worked, so we kind of kept it and went with it. So that's where we are.
And of course, there's the Blade Runner dice are part of the starter set, and that
Yeah.
comes with the campaign. Sounds like the system is very different to the system used in Alien RPG. I think we're going to have some people who might be a little disappointed that they don't
Right.
natively kind of interlink. Of course, there are Easter eggs for Alien, Easter eggs for Blade Runner in Alien, and of course, Total Recall is another license that is not incorporated here, but people consider that to be part of the same universe, even more officially because they have the same author at the kind of lowest level.
Yeah.
Um,
Of course, yeah,
I can
we
imagine.
realized that question and that issue, and that
Mm,
desire to connect the different universes, and that's entirely possible. It requires a bit of conversion work, but I
mhm,
guess it's possible to do it. But I mean, at the end of the day, for us, we want a rule system and a framework that fits the property and the types of stories we're telling the best. And Alien is the rule system for Alien is so much focused on the stress mechanic, and the kind of, it's basically a horror film in space, and that's really where we went with the rules. And
Yeah.
that I think works well in Alien, but I think it would be a bit of a weird fit to just use that exact same system in Blade Runner. I think for every game that we make, we modify and adapt the system to fit the stories and the themes and the styles that of the particular game that we're making. So
Yes.
there's always
Yeah.
going to be a bit of difference between the different games that we make.
And the movies have a very different feel, and Alien is quite a lot more, I guess, pulpy in a way.
Yeah.
It's all about that hardcore fun and
Yeah.
horror. Whereas watch the films, they're totally different from that. One more question about Alien and Blade Runner, though. In Alien, obviously, you have the hidden android mechanic. Is there any possibility, kind of written into the system, where your player may discover they are in fact a replicant?
There is at this moment. I should say everything here is, since the game is not fully done and not fully approved and so on yet. So
I
everything
approve it.
should be hedged with just that things can change before the final product is completely done. But at this moment, the current rule set that we have, yes, there is an option. The way it's written now, it's actually an option that a player you can choose in this game if you want to be a replicant or a human, because it's set in 2037, which is a year after replicants were reintroduced on Earth, and some of them even into the ranks of Blade Runner. So you can play a Blade Runner replicant, just like K in Blade Runner 2049. But if you choose to be a human Blade Runner, you can also opt as a choice to roll a die secretly without seeing the end result. And if that die comes out with a specific result, then you're actually a replicant without knowing it. So we're not forcing this on any player, but if you want to, gamble like this, then you can do it. But then you will not know that you're actually a replicant. And then the game runner can kind of work with that and spin that and use that fact in any way that they please, and weave it into the casework and the scenarios that you'll be playing. So and then there is of course a system for how that shift or change will affect the rule mechanical effects of it all. But so yeah, there is this option to possibly play a secret replicant who believes themselves to be human but is actually not.
That's incredible. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm probably putting words into your mouth here, but I foresee that there's going to be a lot more content potentially planned out, much the same way as we have the additional books in other IPs in the Free League world. So more casework coming over time. And
Absolutely.
Can you share not necessarily the content of them, but are there more stretch goals lined up?
We have a few more ideas. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think we have two more to go now, and we have another, potential batch of a few more coming up. So yes, and yes, we are planning expansions beyond this. I mean, the core game that we're doing now. So I think a difference compared to Alien, for example, where the cinematic scenarios they're built to be one shots with pre-generated characters that you don't necessarily will play again, because most of them will probably not survive. That's kind of the nature of the Alien game, that most characters, at least in the cinematic, will not make it through. In Blade Runner is a bit different. These case files that we're doing, they are more entirely possible to play several with the same characters. You can actually play longer campaigns and do several case files with the same characters, and even connect case files into longer campaign narratives as well, where there is some narrative thread or something else going on in the background that will connect several case files into something bigger.
Awesome. That's amazing. I'm really excited. The campaign is doing really, really well. Please, if you haven't done so already and you're interested, please check out the campaign over on Kickstarter. If you've enjoyed this interview, then please like and subscribe. And you can find Tomas where?
Oh, well, you can find us on the Kickstarter, obviously. And if not that, we're on, just search for Free League Publishing at, your usual social media.
Super. As I said, certainly in the UK Games Expo is coming up at the beginning of June.
Yeah.
Yes. So there will be several of the Free League contingent there. So feel free to ask them questions that they're not allowed to answer yet about the project. Tomas, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy day to talk to us. And,
sure, thanks a lot.
And we will be back at the Dark Orb on Friday for Kickstart Your Weekend, as well as if you're watching this on day of publishing, we have Dungeon Crawl Classics over on Twitch tomorrow. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you very soon. Take care, everyone.